And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm. We're so delighted that you could join us for our unique podcast community where we explore the issues and challenges in the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. We're so delighted you can join us today, and we have a wonderful show for you. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. Remember to like and share our videos on social media. You can find us on all the big platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and more. So join us on those, and we always love it when our community interacts with us, so please use the chat feature during the show and ask questions of our guests or make comments. We'd love to hear from our audience, and it's such a dynamic platform when you do, so make sure you join in. This podcast exists as an interface between our great artists and the communities that love that art, so please join us, and thank you for joining us on Music Matters. Our guest today is Maria Todaro, a wonderful and visionary stage director and co-founder of the Phoenicia International Festival for the Voice. Welcome, Maria.
Jason, it's a pleasure. I'm thrilled to be with you guys tonight here, and I'm all yours and happy to be. It's an honor. I have to say, I'm smiling because we were just talking a little bit a few minutes before, and I'm discovering you, and you are also such an incredible visionary. I know it's about our conversation here, but there's so much to be said about you and about what you're creating here. It's just wonderful to create this platform where we can give hope and share our initiatives, our ideas, our success, our failures. I mean, thank you so much.
It's so amazing what we can do with the internet, with social media, with the connection between colleagues. I mean, we're all separated because of COVID, but we can really, it's amazing how many people we have in common in the industry. And I've been following your work for years. The festival has grown so much under your leadership and your guidance. And then I heard about the innovations you made last summer. And I can't wait to dig into those and how you came up with and dealt with the challenges, the myriad challenges I know you faced. And it's just so delightful. I had friends who were in the orchestra who told me all about it. So it's amazing how small our communities are.
Oh,
and
God, yes,
when you hear people that do good work, you want to know what they're up to.
It's thrilling. Thank you. We start this whole. Do you want to know now? This is what you want to talk about?
Sure. Let's jump in.
Because I'm going to be launched. I'm going to tell you everything, and it's out of pure necessity. We were like, what, and now what? We all were in the midst of something exciting with a full season. You talked about yours. I was in the midst of a production where, just like many stories, I personally was. That was the day of the dress rehearsal of this innovative show that we're so excited to do. It was we had the New Jersey Festival Orchestra had decided to do the first act of that Curie, which I presented Mad Max like, and then the second act was Pagliacci that we completely brought into the Wild West, and we were so excited to do this, and boom. So out of now what do you mean we can't go back next week? What do you mean it's gonna what? And not even next month, and not even next year, and we don't know anything. So it was really a reaction immediately. It's like, okay, so what are we allowed to do? And not much. So what is safe? Stay in your car. Okay, what about a drive-in? Is it safe? Can we do that? So that and now when in New York with the specific care that Governor Cuomo had, about the protocols, about the restrictions. So we had, if we wanted to plan something for August, of course, we had to ask for a waiver because no one could also tell us that in August we could do anything. And we knew that we were taking the chance that even by planning an event that was authorized, it could be last minute closed. So every time we're working hard and we're raising funds and we're finding solutions for every challenges that it's when you say drive-in, you got to find a location where you can put the car. Then how do you put the stage there? Who are the singers that are going to accept doing that? Where do you put the orchestra to make it safe? How do you do sound integration and where people are in their car, they can actually get
it never ends.
And then on earth are they going to be able to see what's going on stage if they're in the row, if there's 600 cars and they're in a parking lot? How do we work the logistics of parking. So all those things were fascinating to solve, and the goodwill of people that saw that had hope to put a show, all about the show, all about what we love doing and what we love serving, right? So we, by trying to respond to those questions, a lot of innovations were made. A lot of partners, new partners need to be found just by the simple fact that we had to talk to doctors, for instance, and then all of a sudden you had backstage protocols. Before you know it, we had a doctor that came every day, for instance, to tell us, can do, okay, can do that, wash your hands, And so we realized that we needed an agent of compliance, because even I, that were so strict with everyone, I got scolded by my stage manager because I had forgotten to just simply put a mask on stage, and she came and I had a fit, and then I had to make a public apology. But just to say that it's easy to forget those things when you're in a fire. So we discovered that we had to name people. It became a profession. An agent of compliance backstage was a thing that we all discovered was necessary, for instance.
So many changes and so many innovations. Yeah, I mean, what have you taken with you? We've all had to learn such wild and different things that we're trained to do, and I think we're going to turn away. We're going to go to our next chapter with so many possibilities that we
Yes,
take with
please.
us. What are you
Yeah.
going to take with you in the next chapter?
Oh my God, at all levels, I would say that they are human, technological, professional, musical. There's something that we learn, right? Um, I mean, on a human level, we were forced to go to what matters the most, I think. And there is our image, there is the profession, and then there's this whole reevaluation that I believe we all had to go through. And there is what I thought I was achieving, and now I'm nothing. So, from of course, we're not nothing, but you know what I mean? It's kind of in comparison to um, the plan that we all had. It kind of humbled us all, saying, okay, here are my hopes and my desire, and this is what actually happens. So, how do I gain peace in the process? And we all struggled and found some ways to be at peace with what was forced upon us.
Isn't it amazing? I feel like I planned 4 summer seasons for my Ocean Grove group. I had to do, we usually do multiple concerts and a whole season's worth of different events. And I feel like I planned 4 different seasons because every time I made a plan, maybe in January, February, March, April,
Oh,
it would change immediately because
I,
there was no way to accomplish that
I
plan. So we had to
absolutely
erase
understand.
it all, start again.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. And you asked what we got. I mean, I think that COVID also had to, because this is something it's dear to me to share, because that is the thing that was what? There's a world that I can tap in that world, and it was the technological progress that we all. I mean, look at you. You're now having this platform where you have guests, and you know you are creating a place of gathering. Were you always thinking about doing this?
No, not even close. I was supposed to be guest conducting all over the place in the spring and all sorts of concerts. And then when those all canceled, I spent a week doing yard work, which I was way behind. Did some yard work and said, "Now I'm done with the yard work. What am I going to do with my time? I'm supposed to be doing 8 rehearsals a week and teaching and all this stuff. It was all canceled." So I came back and I said, "I'm bored now." And I looked at my son, who's a technological wizard, and I said, "What do we do, Quentin?" And he's like, "Dad, let's do a podcast." I'm like, "Okay, what's a podcast?" So here we are.
Exactly. And you had to educate yourself and your son. Thank God you have this genius son of yours. I call them the glorious nerds. I have a few around me too, and they're just like the best people. And we were forced to learn so much and learn from other industries. I'm so in awe with my colleagues also that thought out of the box, and we were forced to talk to people that we would never imagine that we would have spoken that soon. Or I was always fascinated by the usage of technology, and where is opera, which is our trade, which is my trade, where's opera going? And as as the head of an organization, as a head of an art performing organization, we always want to be aware of the next move. And also because we literally in the middle of a wonderful, gorgeous, surrounded by nature, but where there's nothing else than that, where I put the festival in Phoenicia, upstate New York in the Catskills. It's beautiful, but we had everything to build. So it gave us the opportunity to build it also from scratch. So we always had our eyes into the next technology, but this
How
time,
exciting! How exciting to get to build a festival, your own, very own Bayreuth, your very own place where there is nothing there, then you can make it happen. So let's go back to the beginning of your artistic journey. Did you always know you wanted to be a singer or a stage director or an artist? And how did you start your journey?
my journey is I cheated a little bit. Both of my parents are opera singers.
Aha.
So I was born with a virus already. And yes, I was born in full sin. And my parents told my dad, tried to discourage while I was receiving very young. I was on stage. The first time I was on stage, I was 4. Well, I mean, not counting when I was in the tummy of my mother who was singing, which qualifies me from being on stage. But they, I was already making my big debut at 4. So then they gave me every the whole education that you can hope for when you want to do this career. So I started with piano. I did conducting. I actually have a don't laugh too hard, but I do have a master in conducting. It's like everybody knows that if you don't do it really, you suck at it, which is so there's no competition here. But I had the blessing to have this kind of education, and then my dad decided that he would discourage me to be an artist. And he said,
How'd that work out?
he did everything. Yeah, he did everything he could, and then I surprised a conversation he had with a friend, and he said, "If she still wants to do it, that means that, you know." So it was a secret agenda to try to discourage me. It didn't work, but I did law school, and I did political science as a result, and then came back to my first love, of course, the stage, as a singer first, as a mezzo, and then but I always was interested about the acting and the staging. So I don't know if you know that, but I'm a fight choreographer too.
I read that in your biography, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. So you've had such a wide range of experiences in the opera field. I find that really interesting because as a director, you synthesize everything. You take that into your interpretation. I think that really must round out your directing concepts.
I appreciate you saying this. I hope so. I feel connected with every industry that is represented in our profession. And I particularly, we were talking a little bit before, you and I, about the relationship with conductors, and how amazing it is when you work as a team, and how we can both serve a piece, the stage director with the drama and you with the orchestra, and how important it is, how of a superior experience we give to the performers when we can get that kind of partnership.
That's the magic when it works, and I would say when it actually enhance each other. They multiply the effects, and it adds such impressive layers. The magic of the stage, right?
It is very exciting to work with someone who's intimately the score and understand that those chords are there for an emotion, a particular emotion. And then when we agree or disagree, which are also interesting conversation, right? It's fascinating to in that depth of the character, and when the singers contribute also and give their own artistry to the whole mix, as you said, it's magical. You're right. So,
what was the first show you directed?
That again?
What was your first show that you directed?
It was Cavalleria Rusticana. Yeah, it was Cavalleria Rusticana, and it was short, but I decided to. I was freaking out, of course, and I wanted to. So I knew the best way to conquer fear is to be extraordinarily prepared, right? So I had over worked every single aspects of the Sicilian culture, and I could, even do all the gestures that you can imagine in Sicilian and all the everything. And then I decided to always technology, a bit of the future and the past mixed together. So there were projections of those quotes about jealousy and about betrayal and those quotes were popping on the screen as the actors were singing, and it was just fun.
Wow.
Oh, and I was also in the show. I was doing Lola.
Wow.
That's horrible to be doing both.
Must be
It's like
exhausting, having to deal with both of those issues of both the
it's
stage director and the singer.
horrifying, and for my poor colleague too, it's horrifying. Yeah.
When I was at the New Jersey State Opera, I was the conductor, but I was also the artistic director, so I would have to deal with the budgets, I would have to work with the donors, I would have to make sure that the orchestra contracts were done, and it's the conducting was the fun part. Whenever I get to that, I'm like,
That's
oh, I'm
fine.
trained for this.
I hear you. I hear you, Jason. That's a little bit how I feel with the Festival of the Voice, being the general director too. Um, my team is amazing. We have 189 volunteers and 42 directors that are just crazy. It's a big team, and all from not the directors but the volunteer. They're all from the 300 inhabitants of the hamlet of Phoenicia. So they're all from the exact same village, but they know that when I'm directing, they're so wonderful. They carry the whole festival on their shoulders when I'm directing. Like I don't have to be, interrupted unless there is someone on fire literally, or something falling from the sky, or the aliens are landed, and
And
we
these
can't.
days, anything can happen, right? I'm sure we've learned that.
It's yes, yes, and it has happened. When we did the drive-in last year during COVID, it was exactly the day Hurricane Laura struck. Do you remember?
I do.
Hurricane Laura. You remember the tornadoes we just had before, where they just, of course, decided that this was during my dress rehearsal that we had to be evacuated
Oh,
twice. And
no.
it happens. It's fun. It's like this. And then we had to move the whole day. We had of the show to the Sunday instead of Saturday because of Hurricane Laura. Yeah.
Who would have thought that like contracts clauses like force majeure would actually I'm like I've always signed those, but I'm like, oh, that's why in terms of disease and pandemic and tornadoes and hurricanes, I mean, often I never really thought of that until this last year.
Yes, I don't know what to say, because we from both you and I are from both side of the equation as artists and as producers. So as producers, it it's a heartbreaking thing to announce to your artist we won't be able to, and it's such a while there's force majeure, you're just so grateful of the attitude of those incredible artists that were told by me that we would not be able to do it. Despite the force major, we never had to rub it at anybody's face, which would have been a horrible thing to do. It's kind of that we
Yeah.
feel as producers, we feel that this is, thank God we have it, but it's also the most horrible thing to have. You
And
know,
we're artists, and we spend countless hours putting things together and getting them ready. They're like my children. When I have a major project and I put it on the stage, it's like my child, and everything's got to be just right. And then to watch it not happen is just devastating on every level.
absolutely, and I think this is why um, the pain that we felt at telling artists that we had committed to, that we were so happy to welcome, to tell, the pain we felt at telling them, so sorry, we just can't, um, motivated us to also try to find a solution, something, anything. And this is why all those ideas that we had, they were really coming from that place of empathy, and that place of really sadness of having to tell someone, I am so sorry, I'm gonna not make you love the most doing, and you're not gonna be paid, and this is probably what you were hoping to do, and hoping to receive, and no, it's taken away from you. So it's the sense, I don't want to use the word guilt because that was the fault of no one, of course, but there was that responsibility sense that motivated us to move, you know.
How was the planning process going for the future, and how do we all plan? I mean, I'm in the midst of planning for my summer season, and they're planning for a full season, and I'm praying that the vaccine keeps rolling out, that the numbers go down, that we're able to start the rollout to live music again. And we just heard, of course, Andrew Cuomo's announcement in New York City that venues are stadiums are starting to open in limited capacity. So that's at least a positive development.
It's an encouragement. It's everything that's happening is happening a little bit on a surprise note. So everybody's like, "What? The stadiums are opening? Oh,
Stadiums are safe,
pop-up,
but opera
concert
houses are
fans?
not.
Oh, you know." And but I think that this is an attempt to. There was so many people to. There's so much. This is an emergency, situation, and so I think that our governance is trying to now address. They understand. I think there's a sign, even if it's a little surprising, or for us it sounds maybe a little unexpected. Nobody knew those steps were taken. I guess I think I read it as a sign that they trying to say we understand your suffering. This is a first step towards addressing the millions of artists out there that lost their job, and which so few understood the gravity of the situation for the performers, knowing that everybody's like, well, there is um, you can claim unemployment. No, not every artist can claim unemployment. If you have been on 1099, you have very, very little recourses. And not everybody has some savings that they could survive for a year. Many of our colleagues have had to take in extremis some jobs and learn some things, and it's been humiliating to be told, well, can't you just go and take a job at the post office or in an office?
We've had a couple. I'm not going to name names. We've had a couple of distinguished singers on this show who Metropolitan Opera leads. One's working landscaping. I know two are working landscaping actually, and others are. We're all just doing what we have to do. And one thing
Absolutely.
I tell the artists, just because, and Brad Moore, who was on the show, had a great quote on this, and he goes, just because people aren't making money, it doesn't mean they're not artists. We're always artists. That's just who we are, and we
Amen
just
to
have to
that.
we have to do what we have to do to get through this period, and then we start again. We turn that page, and it'll come back, and it will be
Amen.
there.
Amen to that. And I believe that when it comes back, it's going to come back like it always had in history, uh, bigger, greater, with a superior joy, because each time there's this kind of of contained artistry, then it explodes, and it multiplies, and it's amazing. So I'm looking forward to that moment. But there is a thing I wanted to tell you. There's this stigmata that artists often have when you cannot just live out of your art. There is a stigmata that you're not good enough. And I think that COVID probably has make, I hope, has created an equalizer. And I hope and I pray the stigmata will go away. And I believe it is. I believe the new generation of directors and the new generation of entrepreneur in the arts and artists think and see differently now. COVID probably helped. So one of the things I needed to restructure completely my team at the festival. We had, after 11 years, that was regardless of COVID, we would have had to change our strategies, to renew our spirit, because otherwise you stagnate and you can't progress, you can't grow, right? So we were hoping for change. We were not hoping for that much of a change, but
Dial back the change.
thank you. But we were hoping for change, and so we were in the process of restructuring our team, and all of a sudden, I found myself in a position, instead of hiring administrator, which can probably find jobs in many, many fields. What about looking for musicians, singers that actually are Renaissance men and women who have just, the multiple abilities. They are wonderful artists, but they also have super skills when it comes to administration and other things. So our pool of search on which we were searching, our teammate became centered into, okay, who are the singers, for instance, that also can do bookkeeping or can be general managers or can do social media. And we found amazing performers at very high levels that I'm so honored to have in my team that did the videos that you saw, that are doing my general management, that are doing my bookkeeper. So I call them ambassadors,
That's
artistic
fantastic.
ambassadors.
It's so great to hear. I know so many artists who have multiple skills in multiple ways, and a lot of them have very flexible jobs. And I've been interviewing some people who've been expanding their skill sets. A singer we probably both know is coming on the show. Stephen Labrie is going to be on next month. And he was in the New York Times saying he's learning how to code. So when this is over, he'll have that ability while he's doing his roles. He'll be coding on the side and on days off. And it just makes sense that people have to be flexible when times are really challenging. And it's amazing to watch the creativity of the creative industry.
It has enlarged our possibilities. And this is exactly the conversation I was having with my colleagues when it all started last year, is that if we are not moving that boat forward, us, the creatives, who on earth is going to do it? This is our time to shine. This is our time to make a difference in people's lives. This is in moment of crisis that art and beauty is the most needed. And we all know that. We strive for that. We sell that. This is we dwell in emotions and we sell emotions. This is what we do. And creations and inspiration, right? And all those things that goes with it, and entertainment. But inspiration is part of our mission statement as artists that we all signed when we decide to choose that path, right? So in moment of crisis, I'm so proud of so many, and most of everybody actually. I'm so proud of our colleagues that have tried to, in their capacity, that in whatever possibilities, with whatever means, we're trying to lift up the spirit of the rest of humanity.
So
I
beautiful.
saw, yeah, like what you did, like, oh God, there's thousands of artists that come to my mind that have done incredible things performing outside. What's the tenor's name that is in South Carolina? My God.
Oh, Dimitri Pitas.
Dimitri and his wife were doing such a great
Leah.
job
Right.
with taking these initiatives. And it started with videos, of him and his toddler, and to just lift the spirit.
I just heard, we went to college together, and I just heard that, and we were in the same fraternity, and I know what a lovely man. And I hadn't spoken to him in years, and I said, he's doing opera out of a pickup truck. This is a Metropolitan Opera star. I'm like, I had to call him and said, you got to be on the show.
Amazing.
What a great story.
Amazing. Dimitri was supposed to be in our drive-in. It was supposed to be our Cavaradossi. Kyle Albertson, that has been our Tosca and is on the excerpts that we saw and we're going to see, has done an incredible series of humoristic videos that made everybody sustain the spirit of everybody during the pandemic. Remarkable video works that he's been doing. It's always like this. I should make a list, but because they're all jamming in my head. But and we were talking about Michael Fennelly, who's done also so much during the pandemic. The creativity of this man. So many of our colleagues, all of them. So, in moment of crisis, this is when an artist should, this is why we were born for.
We've got to keep our communities together, keep our communities engaged. The artists we work together. We're the ones who have to do that. And I, as a college professor, I've got to keep my university students together and keep them. I tell my students, you have to come out of this better than when you came in. Find your skill set. Some of the greatest innovations in all humankind were made under the most difficult circumstances.
Amen.
This is your time.
Absolutely. It's your time, exactly. So it's been, COVID has been brutal. I hate to hear some people leaving their home because they could not afford to stay there and had to go back. But on the other hand, my goodness, so much has been innovated. So much has been, it's going to enrich our inspiration as writers, everything we're learning. Even if we're doing coding, I'm sure some composer or librettist or writer is going to use all that, as a source of It's going to be material. It has to be.
And composers, we've had lots of composers. The pathos and the challenges we've all faced are going to just come pouring out in these new works because people have been penning them while they're in the abstraction. When we get back together, they're going to start being released into the world. Operas are going to be written, plays are going to be performed, and people need that.
The depth on. Oh yeah, it's interesting. You see, being European, we have this kind of absolute wrong judgment on America. It's like, hey, you have never suffered like the old continent, which is completely wrong, and it's bad to judge regardless. But there is this approach of, suffering. Let me tell you about suffering. And when you go to, and I'm not someone, I'm a very, blessed person. I've suffered very little compared to the lives of very brave people. But I was so astonished when you go to a country like Poland that has been bombed and bombed and bombed and bombed and destroyed and completely
rebuilt, yeah,
to zero. And then you look at the thirst of those people for art and the explosion of art in a place like that. And you talk to a child, and every child speaks 5 languages in the street, and you're like, the priorities and what matters and what is important to them. So that has given, not that it's great lesson to have. I mean, I wish we didn't have to go through this, but I can't even imagine the depth of interpretation and the journey, the internal journey that each of the performers have to go through. Like you said, the pathos will make art superior.
We have a question, our first question from the audience. This is from Jessica from Miami. And she said, how do you come up with an interpretation of an opera as a director?
Hi, Jessica. Great question. You, like a writer, first of all, you have to completely be immersed in the text and the music and understand. I position myself as a servant first of what has been written by greater men or women than me. So I'm not here to reinvent the wheel of the genius they had, but I'm here to to serve and enhance, and maybe putting a specific light to what they have already done before me. So first, I would say it's as much as we can, the preparation and the understanding of the text and the music. Once we have that, then we got to let the brain, that becomes then a complete creative work. At the difference of an interpreter who has to absorb, and through their own sensitivity and talent, when you regurgitate the work, it comes with your own particular magic. A stage director has, like a writer, a complete creative license of presentation, so that it comes from the set, the costumes, or the setting itself, the production itself. So we have to, and this was very new from coming from a singer to a stage director, I realized that, that's what it must feel to be a composer or to be a writer. You are left with moments where you need inspiration to come to you, and people use all kinds of technique to get to that zone of creativity, and then you can build. Once you get the inspiration, then comes the logistics, the plannings, the whole, that's the phase 3 of your first preparation and understanding of what you are given already. Then you pray for inspiration real hard. And then once you got inspiration, you plan it. You plan how you're gonna now present it, that it's kind of clear to an audience and to your artist, and that you're not just in your zone and the poor guys in front of you understand nothing of what you're trying to do, right?
What are some of the settings that you've used for a couple of your favorite projects?
Oh my gosh, I loved working on an Elixir of Love. Well, this is an example. Elixir of Love did not inspire me until the last minute. I was panicking. And I heard that a lot of stage directors have crossed that, moment of, it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be so boring. I have no idea. I don't know what to do. It's like, And so I had that moment until inspiration came, and it's like, what if? we were journeying all this in Ghana, in Africa. And I set Elixir of Love into a village in Ghana. And we had an entire cast. Of core was African American, and my cast was African American. And then we incorporate, when you go that direction, then the logistics of planning. So then we're like, what if we were putting drums, African drums, into Donizetti orchestration?
Fun.
And we did, and it worked. And I'd love to share the video. I think I sent you a video.
We have the video. We'll play that at the end.
If you want to watch that, it's really fun. And then we had, in the scene, the second act is a wedding scene. So we're like, wait, what if we were doing it like a real wedding in Ghana? And then you learn tradition, you take counselors, then I learned so much about it. And then we brought some Burkina Faso dancers. So we interrupted the opera and got this whole African dance. But you know what was the most interesting? Is our African American singers, they don't walk like we walk in Africa, because that's not their culture. We're all Americans first. And so all my singers were very much walking like you work hard in music conservatoire and you walk Donizetti, it's very precious. So we were all doing that, and I said, we're not looking authentic. We just have the looks. It's great, but we need so we invite a choreographer to teach us all how to walk. Wow. Because in Africa, in part of Africa, and it depends where in Africa, right? The women, the aesthetic, what matters, the canon of beauty are very different. And a woman is grounded and the stomach is out. And, it's not like us trying to look skinny, and the men walk differently than here, and the women walk differently. They carry heavy things on the head. So there's a whole demeanor and a whole grounding that is very sexy. So we learn how to walk with arch back, like we're all pregnant, and so for us, it was such a learning curve, and it was wonderful for my African American artists to go back to some very fun journey of ancestors, and we all learn, and I was educated by them about the diversity question. So I got so much. You asked me what was one of my favorite. I think this one was very dear to me because
what was the result of the audience on such an interesting reimagining of a joyful, familiar story?
So joyful. Elixir is a comedy, and we gave dimension to the character that are not stupid. They're just like we reinvented a little bit the audience, and I did have white tourists coming to the village. So it was, the audience was screaming. They loved it, and it was fantastic. A journey. It was joyful. It was so. It was just a joyful moment. We all had. Jasmine Avisham was our Norina. Orson Bangay was our Nemorino, and they were just amazing, and we had so much fun. So that was cool.
It's so exciting when a director puts such always an interesting spin on things. It makes the opera new, current. Those characters can be cardboard cutouts, right? If it's not handled correctly. And boy, I can't wait to see the clips of that in the end.
We did. You have a little presentation, and I think in that clip you'll hear a little bit of the drum mixed with the orchestra. And then I had this fabulous Carmen with Ginger Costa Jackson, Kyle Albertson, Adam Diego, and we drowned Carmen at the end. We did it in a fountain in Spain. It was fabulous. Ginger died so well, and we added. I always, because we're in the outdoor festival, I always did incorporate some elements from the audience. So it's like, there's always stuff happening in your back and people come, and how audience like to be part of. It's very inclusive, which leads me to also the comprehension of video games and how immersion is important. And somehow I always worked with immersion, So there's a tank in Carmen. We had tanks and coming from the audience, and it was pretty wild. That was a good one too. But then
wow.
I feel bad because now I'm just like launched into an ADD spree and telling all the stuff I love. And
Well, that's what's exciting is you get to, you have to think such creativity out of the box and bring that together with a story that's so familiar, and pay homage to the source material. But when you put that spin on it, it really can make it really it take that to the audience in a new way, that an older story becomes modern and reborn because of these universal human themes that we all feel. It
right,
becomes new.
right. And I'm appreciative you talking about universality. I believe that those great librettists and those great composers were right at the core of what makes us human being, and that has not changed much. We can be evolved technologically wise, but we're still jealous, we still suffer the same way, we still feel those emotions that are very relevant now, and they were 2000 years ago. They were still the same. With poetry is talking about those. So it's going to the core of that with respect of what the librettists and the composers. And this is why I love working with conductors that really know their score, because there's layers that the music brings that can completely carry the drama, of course. It's important.
Hand in hand, and it's like so exciting to watch that come together.
Absolutely.
So, what is the next chapter going to look like for the festival? As you've been through, what was this? This is the 11th year.
Yeah. So we're
Wow.
entering our 12th year now, and it's we have to, while still we owe our followers and our patrons a sense of familiarity, and because it's too hard otherwise, so we cannot just go. It's been, we were doing it a certain way, which is those 3 days outdoors. You have lavish music under the star. People come with their blanket and their picnic, and you have your glass of wine, and you can be barefoot in the grass. And we cannot go from what has made our identity to a complete, different thing. So we still want this year, and the drive-in was pretty out there as a disconnection from what our identity is. It was and it wasn't, because interestingly, even in a drive-in setting, and for the people that are with us today, when I say drive-in, I mean the Tosca drive-in that we did last August. We were the first in the United States to present an opera live under that drive-in, and another company did it even better than we did, but we were the first. And interestingly, we were very afraid of a disconnect community-wise, because you're in your car, and it was the opposite. So I guess the spirit of what we had built as a community was still respected, despite the fact that people were in their bubble, in their car. The honking at the end of the show was just the most joyful thing you could imagine. And
Amazing.
so we're trying to still have a foot into the familiar for the future. And there will be, right now, I think many of my colleagues that are planning are in the same boat than I am. They're still planning. We're still in what, at this, February of a normal year, your season is done. The next year season is done.
Contracts are signed,
You're,
artists are ready,
oh,
housing is set,
you
all
are
those
already announcing
wheels are in motion.
That's right, wheels are in motion. I am not embarrassed to say, because I know I'm not the only one, I'm not embarrassed to say that no, the plans are not completely sealed yet. There's so many factors before we can take an intelligent plan. What I can say is that I think there's consensus among my colleagues, entrepreneurs in the arts, that we will do it like if we're still in full speed COVID. So we will still plan encompassing the safety protocols.
So art will survive no matter what. The art will survive, and this
Yeah,
experience will happen, and you will honor your tradition, and that's an exciting statement. So we're all happy about that.
yes, we will do it. We're committed to make it happen, whatever it's going to be. But what I can tell you is that it's going to be super safe, because we're still going to be respecting those protocols of safety, and it's going to be very focused on collaboration. We're talking to many people right now to see if, instead of doing everything on our own, if we can make, and it's too soon to say anything about it, so I will make sure that you're one of the first, and your followers are the one of the first to know what are our plans, as we only not even 2 hours away from New York City. We're just right there, so come see us. But
Absolutely.
at the end of August, yeah, there's I think collaboration is now a key word, and you know, it's the only way for a company like mine to do anything is to do it with friends, do it with other people that are facing similar difficulties, and there's so much. And so it forces us um, to be nice.
I tell my students,
To be nice.
I'm like, if I write a book, the first chapter will be nice. I've worked so often, and I have so many friends and colleagues that we just enjoy working together. It's not it's going to be challenging. It's the arts. There are always challenges and hurdles, but when you work together with friends and you treat each other with respect, the results are going to be good.
We're gonna have to, exactly. So it's gonna be a humbling experience to how much how territorial we can be, even if when we claim we want to be collaborative. There's it's your baby, and it's understandable. There's a lot of emotion. We can't be doing those professions and be detached
You
emotionally.
pour your soul into every project. That's the
You
way that
absolutely
these things
do.
happen.
And you absolutely do. And there's more and more, which is wonderful. There's more and more, like we were talking about Stefanos Koroneos or Erica Einhorn on
Stefanos
slide.
is the only guest who's been on the show twice. We've had him on twice.
Is that right?
He was my first guest, and he was like on
Oh,
episode 60 or something like that.
he's an amazing man. But to see artists taking over companies, like him taking over companies, I found it so amazing for the art form. I think it's wonderful, but also back to what we were saying about we can't help to be emotional. We also have that, we are from that breed of individual that can't help to put everything we have into what we're doing. So there are emotions, this and collaboration sometimes, and we train to also be very competitive in our industry. We train for that, so it's not our fault if we can't help looking at the neighbor saying, how come he's having more publicity than I do? How come he's having a bad, why
We
did he
all do
get an
that.
NEA grant and I didn't, or those all those things. So maybe it's because it's human, we're still going to continue being like that, or maybe COVID would force us to see with empathy and a little more, gentleness in a way. But we functioning. We have function. Collaboration has existed before all this, so I have a big hope in our human nature and big confidence in our ability to work together. But it would be interesting if we could have learned a tiny bit of, I don't want to say disinterest again, because we can't be disinterested, we're too emotional. But if we could be a little detached from that pride, I don't know. We'll see how the collaboration.
I think I think COVID has taught the entire industry humility, because even like we had Brian Jade on the show, and we were talked about how he went from all over the world, the Metropolitan Opera everywhere, Vienna Staatsoper, to nothing for 6 months, and devastating that was. How he would still take 3 lessons a week and keep his skill set up, but have nothing to, how. And he's like, well, I used to be a waiter, and how could I still do that at this age? We were all thinking
Wow.
that way. Is how do we
Wow.
I think we're all going to approach I know myself, I've learned incredible humility, and to really think and to be inward, and to appreciate my colleagues. Even the most tiring rehearsal process, I would give anything to be in one of those rehearsals again. The most grueling stage
Oh,
rehearsal, my touring schedule in the past, and
absolutely,
any
Jason.
moment would be welcome right
Oh
now.
yes. Oh yes. We will appreciate more the thing that we have almost lost, but thank God not completely.
Not
And
completely.
if I may say so, Jason, I'd like to also, because I don't know how much more time I have with you, I would like to mention a little bit of this uh, virtual world that has opened to all of us, and how through that virtual world, many professions are reinvented also. So I think that not only we're going to find ourselves back, I believe that we will be back to our stage with this superior joy that we're talking about. But I think that we will be completely enriched because of the technological development that we have been forced to put a foot into, I think we are actually creating even more jobs. So whatever position we found ourselves right now of having lost our jobs and having had to go back, you were mentioning this artist that went to landscaping or bartending or whatever, that I think that it's very important to sustain our craft to the level that we used to have, and not, which is the hardest thing to do because we need inspiration and motivation, and not, it's hard to sing or work or practice when you have no goals, right? We all know that you need a carrot. But if I can say to all our friends to keep at it, to keep at the craft every day, because when things are opening up, not only is going to open, and many will have even more jobs because of the virtual world that we have also open and creating a parallel path that needs more artists in there too.
Maria, what advice do you have to young people who are young artists who are just coming up into the field? They're ready to get on that stage and they've had to wait. What advice do you have for those people?
First of all, prepare, continue to work on your craft. This is your riches, nothing and no one will ever take it away from you. It is costly, it's true. We spend a lot of money in our craft, but if you can find ways to sustain your craft, go 100% on it. And then don't put all your eggs in one basket. Keep very open. It is it's think like a Renaissance artist. Be a Leonardo da Vinci. We are back to that. This is no shame to have several professions. Just, it is possible to have 2 or 3 specialty and do them at excellent level. It may be at the sacrifice of a little bit of complacency, and maybe you wake up an hour earlier, or watch a little less TV, spend a little less time on Facebook. This
less
is an
Netflix.
Yeah, Facebook is an old people thing. It's less time on Instagram, all those things. But try to be excellent and 2 or 3 things, and if it doesn't exist, create it. If you have 3 specialty but there's no avenue for you, then create it, because you be the innovator that combine those 3 elements of creativity. And then other people will follow you. You will inspire others.
Coming from a great innovator like yourself, you and your husband saw this possibility to start something new and exciting, and you jumped on and you've built something wonderful. And that's great advice to this next generation of young singers who needs it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and poor guys. And and I'm always very open to any young innovator in the arts that want to talk to me.
How can people get in touch with you? How can people find out more about your work as well?
Website, Facebook, any media, social media, I'm everywhere. So don't hesitate. If you have a question, an idea, and I can be of service, I'd be absolutely honored to help.
We're also going to put the website information for the Phoenicia International Festival of the Voice up in the description of this video as well, so people can go on there and check it out and be ready for the announcement of the season when that comes. I welcome you and your husband to come back and make that announcement after it's made. You can join us here and talk about it back on the show. Love to have you back.
Thank you so much, Jason. That'd be a pleasure, and I'm amazed by what you're doing too. Thank you for doing what you're doing for us all.
Continued success, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Jason, and to you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and check us out on social media and join our community. We're so delighted that you could be here tonight. And this Saturday we have 2 shows. First, we have 2 shows in one day. We have a 15-year-old singer-songwriter who's having a huge career in Nashville right now, Ada Leanne. And we have a opera-singing tenor who also plays virtuoso mandolin and ukulele. Justin Gonzalez from Philadelphia is going to be on the show as well at 6 p.m. So thank you so much for joining us. And remember, keep music alive. Good night. And we're off. Bye.